it's 4 o'clock on the Friday, the 1st of October. So it's time for my Facebook Live talk on magic for the month. Actually, I'm going to start it again because I think it went live a little bit too late. So anyway, yes, it's 4 o'clock on the 1st of October. So it's time for my Facebook Live talk on magic for the month. Hello to anyone who's joining me live. And anyone who's watching the recording later. I can see there's a couple of people watching already, so hello to you. You can type comments and I'll answer questions at the end, but I'll happily say hello to anyone who's watching. Now, the talk should take about 35 minutes. I'm Lucya Starza, as you probably know. Hello Luna, and hello John. Okay, yes, I'm seeing some people joining and some messages coming in. So yeah, I'm Lucya Starza, as you probably know, and I write the Bad Witches blog. I've written a few Pagan Portals titles for Moon Books. Shameless plug here. There we go. I also write for the Moon Books blog, and I wrote something there this morning, which covers some of the same material, but not all of what I'm going to talk about today. Now on to magic for the month of October. October is a lot about death, really, with plants dying back and the festivals of Samhain and Halloween. So there is a content warning for those who'd really rather not dwell on things about dying. This talk will later on get quite dark. I'm going to start by talking about a few things other than Halloween, as there are some customs and celebrations in October that are not related to the things at the end of the month. Today, October the 1st, is Older Persons Day, and that's an international day to raise awareness about the problems of old age. And the custom kind of started in 1990, so it's not ancient, it's a modern custom. But it is a topic that's increasingly relevant as we are living longer. Generally, we have an ageing population. Now, as pagans, we do respect the wisdom of our elders. Generally speaking, a lot of eminent pagans are, mature people. And I think it's a great thing. But as individuals, I think this day can also be a reminder for us to get in touch with our own elderly relatives, perhaps people we haven't seen for a while. Just keep in touch. I'm going to read from the community book Everyday Magic, where Imelda Almqvist wrote something about this day. Older Persons Day. Young people in our culture often don't believe old age will happen to them. Because we've become youth obsessed, we've lost a great resource. Elders in our community who share wisdom, knowledge, and traditions with the younger generations. Meditate on the importance of elders. Find an elder tree and spend 15 minutes in meditation, honouring the people who are or were elders in your life and who help shape your life. Send them gratitude. On a similar theme, well, slightly similar, October the 2nd is Braffin Old Man's Day. Now, back in the 16th century, a resident of the English Hertfordshire village, a man called Matthew Wall, had a lucky escape from death. A lucky escape from being buried alive, actually, a lucky escape from death too. And that was thanks to some fallen autumn leaves. Now, he'd been found and was thought to be dead. A procession, including his fiancée, was following his coffin on his way to the grave. One of the people bearing the coffin, one of the pallbearers, slipped on some autumn leaves and dropped the casket. It fell to the ground with a thump, and the mourners were then shocked to hear thumping coming from inside the coffin. The jolt had actually woken Matthew from a narcoleptic sleep. So instead of being buried alive, as he might have been, he married his beloved and lived another 24 years. In his will, he left money so that every October the 2nd, the church bells would ring a wedding peal, and Fleece Lane, which was where the incident happened, would be swept clean, and the custom continues to this day. If you see me looking down, by the way, it's because I read from notes. I can't remember it all. I've got an old brain. I'm not a young person myself. Now, two famous ceremonial magicians had their birthdays in October. Arthur Edward Waite, who wrote a lot of books on magic, as well as being the co-creator of the Arthur Waite Smith Tarot deck, was born on October the 2nd. Aleister Crowley was born on October the 12th. And as well as being the founder of Thelema and writing a lot of books on magic, he created the Thoth Tarot deck with the help of artist Frida Harris. Now I see we've got some more people joining. That's lovely. Hello, Abby, and hello, Becky. So anyway, I'm talking about customs for the month, so I'll carry on. October the 13th is Fontinalia, which was a Roman festival of springs in honour of Fons, the god of pure water. So if there's a well or a spring near where you live, this would be a good day to visit the site. And if you don't know of a local holy well, you could perhaps do some research to find one. Now, one website that I use to find ancient sites is Megalithic Portal, which you can find at www.megalithic.co.uk. Now, it is a bit old-fashioned and clunky as websites go, but it does have a really lot of useful information there about where you can find standing stones, mounds, holy wells, that kind of thing. And another is the Modern Antiquarian at www.themodernantiquarian.com. Now, how was Fontinalia celebrated? In ancient Rome, wells were dressed with flower garlands. But if you're intending to honour the deity of the water nowadays, do check whether the local customs or regulations let you do that. Most don't, because even flower petals can potentially cause a problem. I mean, some do, but do be a bit careful not to actually cause a problem and block the water supply rather than honour clean water. If you're leaving anything, do obviously make sure that it's non-toxic and biodegradable. I'm sure I don't need to say that. I'm sure everybody watching this knows that, but it's something worth saying. And what you could do instead is perhaps do a litter clean around the area of the well to clear the rubbish away. Now, Steve Roud in The English Year writes that many trade and agricultural fairs took place in October, and some still do. They were often originally for buying and selling livestock. This was a time of year when a lot of livestock was bought and sold, especially geese, I think. Probably some fattening up for Christmas going on there. But those that survived are now more just general fairs rather than specifically livestock fairs. Examples include the Goose Fairs in Tavistock and Nottingham, Pack Monday Fair in Dorset, Way Hill Fair in Hampshire, and Bampton Fair in Devon. October is also a time when apples are in plentiful supply. I think I've talked about apples for the last 3 months. In fact, I probably talk about apples every month. There's a lot of apple lore that goes on throughout the year. But October is a time when they're really everywhere, available to be eaten. You've probably already picked most of them, but people have got supplies, plentiful supplies that need using up. There's usually quite a glut of them. Sadly, this year I didn't get hardly any apples from my tree. A big storm early in summer knocked most of the tiny apples off, which is very sad. But quite often I've got a glut of apples this year, at this time of year. And many seasonal customs are to do with what there's a glut of. For example, egg traditions at Easter is possibly to do with there being a big glut of eggs at Easter, and apple customs at this time of year is to do with there being a big glut of apples. It makes sense. In England, Apple Day is on October the 21st, and that is oh hello, we've got some more people joining. That's nice to see that. Hello, those who are joining. Oh, Luna, yeah, this apple tree. Yeah, it is lovely to have an apple tree, isn't it? Yes, Apple Day, October the 21st. It's a modern festival launched in 1990. So, yeah, same year as International People's Day, and it was launched by the charity Common Ground, and it celebrates the fruit and it aims to raise awareness about local varieties. And I think that can be a problem. We can see the same old things in the supermarket and forget that there are lots of different varieties that, some of them might even be quite rare now. Common Ground uses the apple as a symbol of physical, cultural, and genetic diversity. In London, Borough Market usually holds an Apple Day festival in October, and that's usually run by the Lions Part, who also put on Mama's Plays at 12th night. And this year, like last year, the activities will be online. You can find out more at www.thelionspart.co.uk. The Romans held a festival for Pomona, goddess of apples, on November the 1st, which is quite close to October, so I'm mentioning it. The goddess also had festivals in springtime and in August. Apples are highly magical fruit. According to Rachel Patterson in A Kitchen Witch's World of Magical Food, which is a really brilliant book, they're symbols of abundance and excellent to use in spells to contact spirits, fairies, or ancestors. Their magical uses also include love, healing, clarity, and knowledge. They're part of traditional food and customs for both Samhain and Halloween, which I'll be talking a little bit about later. And the agricultural cycle goes on. While the grain might have been harvested in September, and I talked about that last month, October was the month to start the new cycle by sowing wheat seeds for the following year. And in many parts of England, this was celebrated by baking seed cakes, sometimes called siblet cakes. And they were made, often baked by the farmer's wife, to share with family and friends and people who were helping with the seed sowing. Now, one traditional recipe that I found from Northamptonshire contains a pound of flour, a pound of sugar, a pound of butter, 8 eggs, 2 ounces of caraway seeds, and 1 whole grated nutmeg. Now, to make it, you beat the butter, beat in the egg whites, and then the yolks after that, and finally beat in the flour and the spices. Bake it in a cake tin in a hot oven for 1.5 hours. Now, that would really make quite a huge cake for showing. Oh, you can see my cat in the window behind me. There's my cat, Tommy. But I'm not going to let him in yet because he'd jump up and get in the way. Anyway, yes, hello, Tommy. Oh, yes, I've seen other people. Yes, Becky, almost had none the whole orchard. Thanks, that storm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, cause a lot of problems. Now, seed cakes. Yes, Rachel Patterson says that caraway seeds, I do refer to her books quite a lot. They're very, very informative. Caraway seeds are good for health, protection, and fidelity magic. They can ward against unwanted guests and ward against the fair folk. So apples to attract them, caraway seeds to keep them away. And Rachel adds that caraway seeds are really good for use in initiation rites. So you could bake a seed cake when welcoming a new member to a coven or dedicating yourself as a witch. Now, I know that in other countries, other seeds are used. My Polish aunt always used to make poppy seed cakes. And I think, although she used to make them for Yule, I think they'd be quite good to make for Samhain or Halloween as well. There are a few traditional English customs happening in October that are similar to Halloween, but their origins might be separate. In parts of Somerset, Punky Night is on the last Thursday of October. And on Punky Night, children go from door to door in a tradition similar to trick or treat, and they carry punkies, which are lanterns made out of hollowed out mangel wurzels, which are a kind of root vegetable, and demand gifts with this rhyme. It's punky night tonight, it's punky night tonight. Adam and Eve would not believe it's punky night tonight. Give me a candle, give me a light. If you haven't a candle, a penny's all right. It's punky night tonight. Roast pumpkin seeds. Yeah. Tommy probably is meowing. Probably wanting more food. Right, yeah. Now, obviously we make pumpkin lanterns quite a lot these days, and I've actually never seen a mangel wurzel. I've always thought I'd be quite curious to see a mangel wurzel. When I was a kid, we used to make mud of turnips and swedes, and I think a lot of people did too, and some people still do. An old name for an illuminated vegetable is a jack-o'-lantern, supposedly named after the Irish trickster Stingy Jack, who somehow managed to con the devil into paying for his drinks. Now, there's so many folk stories about how people con the devil. I really think the devil was pretty stupid the number of times he got conned. But anyway, the devil, outraged at being fooled, refused to let Jack into hell after he died, leaving him to wander the earth in darkness with only a single coal to light his way. And now Mischief Night. In now Steve Roud's book that I've mentioned a few times, it's really good, this one here, is called, that has a subtitle, A Month-by-Month Guide to the Nation's Customs and Festivals from May Day to Mischief Night. And that does cover a year, as Mischief Night was usually on April the 30th, which some people will know is Walpurgis Night. However, apparently it was most common in Yorkshire and Lancashire, and it was a time for playing pranks on people, again, a bit like Trick or Treat. But in some places, Mischief Night was traditionally on October the 31st, and in other places, it kind of was around Bonfire Night. Steve Roud writes, the history of Mischief Night continues to puzzle folklorists. But he adds that although some writers have assumed an ancient pagan origin for the custom, there's no actual evidence that it's the case. Apparently, the earliest documentary record dates from the 1830s, although it is actually very likely to have occurred before then. That was just when it was first written about. And now on to Halloween. Nowadays, most people think of Halloween as being October's main festival. If you're pagan, you probably celebrate Samhain. But to start with, I'm going to talk about Halloween in its current aspect. I'm seeing a lot of people talking about Punky Night. Yeah, I'd like to celebrate Punky Night as well. I'm probably going to carry on talking about Halloween and Samhain and chat a bit more at the end. It's these days it's hugely commercialized in Britain and even more so in the United States. And I think there are good things and bad things in this. I do kind of hate the shelves of plastic tat you see in some shops with far too many really shoddy things that are going to end up in landfill, which is, not great for the environment and a bit of a waste of money. But as I blogged about earlier this week, there are also some really brilliant things to be found among the tat in high street stores. That pentagram behind me, made out of mini broomsticks. I bought 5 mini Halloween fancy dress costume broomsticks from Wilko's a few years ago, and I think they were 99p each. So, it was not exactly very expensive to make. And this year, from Poundland, which you might have seen me blogging about, I bought this cauldron cup, which I've got water in at the moment. I'm sure that it's going to be absolutely great for potions, candle magic, using it as a tea light holder, and scrying. In fact, I'm probably going to go back and buy a few more for my scrying workshop. I'm giving a scrying workshop later in the month, and I think these might do the trick. £1 each, not bad. Anyway, you can often find black candles. Jane Mortimer, my fellow blogging witch, bought some black candles from Poundland this week. So it can be a really good time to stock up on supplies, which you might otherwise be only able to get from pagan shops. Of course, it's really good to support pagan shops, but sometimes you just don't have the time to go there, and stocking up at Halloween is pretty good. But Halloween is a controversial subject in other ways too. Halloween and Samhain are topics that easily get rows going between pagans. Is Halloween pagan or Christian? Is Samhain the origin of Halloween, or a separate festival that happened at the same time of year? Should pagans even go to Halloween parties, or should they avoid anything that's even slightly Christian? Because on the face of it, Halloween is the night before the Christian festival of All Hallows Day on November the 1st, which celebrates saints. And that's followed by All Souls Day on November the 2nd, which honours the dead. But with Halloween's spookiness of ghost stories, bonfires, dressing up, trickery, and maybe a bit of magic, it doesn't really seem that Christian, it seems pagan. Back in the 20th century, many people looked at Halloween and thought they detected a festival that was ancient and pre-Christian. They looked a bit further and saw a description of the old Irish festival of Samhain, meaning the end of summer, which was celebrated on November the 1st. Sir James Fraser in The Golden Bough had written that Samhain was a pagan Celtic feast of the dead. People put two and two together, and it became the accepted popular history that the origins of Halloween were Samhain. A leaflet by the Pagan Federation in 1993 states Halloween developed from the Celtic feast of Samhain. But then some very eminent historians and folklorists came along and said that they couldn't find any evidence that Samhain was actually to do with the dead. Some stated it wasn't a religious festival, but was more like a secular New Year's Eve celebration at the start of winter, in which fires were lit and merriment enjoyed. Evidence that Samhain was celebrated anywhere outside Ireland was also scarce. They said that Halloween was a different thing altogether. Steve Roud, again in the English Year, stated that Halloween was just a Christian festival dating from the medieval period. He wrote, "There's no evidence that this time of year was celebrated in England before the Christian feast was created." He also writes that Halloween was to do with the dead, but Samhain wasn't. They were two different things and not connected. However, the arguments continue, and a brief web search will find that the Catholic Church under Pope Gregory III moved All Saints' Day, or All Hallows' Day, from May the 13th to November the 1st in the 8th century. Why was that done? A popular theory is that it was moved to supplant Irish Samhain, to kind of put it on top of a pagan festival. But Professor Ronald Hutton in Stations of the Sun offers evidence that the move was actually to fit in with dates celebrated in Northern European churches rather than to go over Irish customs. But others have found some connection between Samhain and Halloween. Most recently, Luke Eastwood, in a really brilliant new book, Samhain, The Roots of Halloween, searches for archaeological, historical, folkloric and literary evidence that ancestors and otherworldly beings were honoured at Samhain in Ireland. That book actually is officially launched this month, but I got a pre-release copy, which is really good. It really looks into the latest archaeological finds in Ireland. It studies mythology. It looks into folklore. It talks to people who celebrate different customs, and is really a really thorough look at Samhain as it was historically celebrated and how it has been over the years. Luke also traces ways that Irish people carried their traditions to other parts of the world. And I've read the book and it really is fascinating, and I do recommend it for an in-depth book about what has been discovered about ancient Irish Samhain. However, I'm not convinced it's going to end all the arguments. And I don't think that matters. At this time of year, when the plants are dying and the nights are getting cold, it just feels that the veil between the worlds is thin. It's easy to see ghosts, and in the autumn mists, see mysterious things, and hear sighs in the wind that might be otherworldly. Most cultures do have some sort of festival for the dead. October the 31st is as good a time for modern pagans to honour those who have died and to try to contact the spirits of our ancestors for wisdom or comfort. But back to that argument about whether pagans should avoid anything that's even slightly Christian. Well, that discussion happens even more around the winter solstice and Christmas time. And my own feelings are really in keeping with the Wiccan Rede. Do what you will, but harm none. Does it harm anyone if I go to a Halloween party? Does it even harm anyone if I go to church? Well, if the answer is no and I want to go, then I'll be there and enjoy myself at the party. Maybe not enjoy myself at church, but if someone asks me to go to church with them, I'll go. Nevertheless, many pagans do prefer to call this Wheel of the Year festival Samhain rather than Halloween, and many modern Samhain rituals are to honour our ancestors and remember loved ones who've passed away. And there's nothing wrong with that, in my opinion. We don't have to do exactly what our ancestors did unless we're strict reconstructionists. Personally, I like to take time for reflection and introspection on and around October 31st, as well as having some fun. And now I'm going to talk about death. I think personal introspection at this time of year, as the plants are dying, can usefully include contemplation about death in all its aspects. That can include our own, hopefully a long time in the future. And I'm going to talk about my thoughts about death and about the afterlife. Now, this really does come with a content warning. So if this is something you don't want to listen to, I'd say, like, by all means, stop listening now. I won't be offended. There is a content warning here about death. Death is the great mystery. It's something we will all face sooner or later. When aware, we probably don't really want to know, no matter how we might enjoy using tarot cards or doing scrying or prediction. I don't think we probably really want to see our own death. What happens after life leaves our bodies? No one alive really knows for certain, even if they kind of believe they do. Death is big and scary and all too real. It steals away our loved ones. It fills the tragic and terrible stories in the news. It lurks somewhere waiting for us. And unlike the bogeyman, it does exist. No wonder death frightens us. And no wonder we need times like Halloween to make light of death, to realise we can enjoy being frightened by tales of horror. We wear the mantles of death by dressing up as ghosts and skeletons and zombies. And in that way, we steal away a little of death's power by taking on its guise and partying like there's no tomorrow. But of course, for some, there won't be. In this world, there are three things that truly unite us. We're born, we live, and we die. That's a trinity reflected in many faiths and cultures around the world. They are part of the cycle of life, the essence of the turning wheel of the year. And those facts of existence are worth honouring, all of those facts, however we choose to do it. Many faiths and cultures also offer hope for what comes after death. But as I said before, no one has discovered incontrovertible proof that there's consciousness after death. Certainly there are many who try to communicate with the spirits of the dead and believe that they do. I mean, I myself personally have felt a connection with my ancestors, but I accept it could be wishful thinking. It can't be proven. There are those who've had near-death experiences of travelling outside their bodies. And there are those for whom faith is more important than evidence. There are also those for whom the rational explanation can only be that life ends when the physical body can no longer support it. And those are all beliefs that are completely valid. What I can say for certain is that one day each of us will find out the truth about death for ourselves. We will each face death. And in that moment, life's greatest mystery will be secret no longer. We will know the truth. And I also believe, having watched three people who are dear to me die of illnesses, my father, my mother, and a friend, that whatever death's secret is, it can bring peace at the end of suffering. And what one does with one's life can help one face death. Now, some years ago, I saw the movie Agora, Agora is a historical drama about a pagan philosopher, Hypatia, in Alexandria in 4th century AD Roman Egypt. Now, you know from the outset the movie won't have a happy ending. History tells us that the violent clashes between pagans and Christians led to the sacking of the greatest library of antiquity and the death of many, including Hypatia. Hypatia was a mathematician and philosopher, and in the film she's studying the movement of the planets. She can see civilization collapsing around her and realizes that she is likely to be killed by an angry mob because she's a pagan woman who refuses to give up her independence and her studies. Yet whatever drives her on, and what drives her on is her search to discover exactly how the earth moves around the sun. And at one point she says that if she can work that out, she can go to her grave happy. Now, I think we all have dreams, we all have ambitions, goals, heart's desires, something that if we can achieve it, we could, at the end of a long and happy life, hopefully, go to our graves happily, feeling that we have done what we could with our lives. It gives our life meaning and purpose, and it takes away death's power to scare us. And I also believe that life goes on after death in some sense. A further part of the cycle of the wheel of the year is rebirth. Everything that dies is reborn in some way. Every element that makes up our bodies has in the past been other bodies, people, animals, plants, the rocks that made up our planet, and long, long ago, the dust of stars. And after we die, those elements return to the earth, and they become other people, other plants, other animals, and perhaps one day our dust will return to the stars. And I do also believe that many, many people feel they have contact from loved ones who've departed. That can be in dreams, just sensing their presence around us, or by trying to contact them. On October 31st in the past, I've honoured my ancestors, the Samhain rites. I've lit a candle for my departed loved ones, held their photo or an object that was dear to them, and sat to see if I felt their presence. And sometimes I felt I've received messages. Later, when the candles burnt down, I thanked them and let them return to their place of rest, while I've gone out to celebrate life and party in the company of friends. Now, I do hope that wasn't too gloomy. I'm going to try and lighten things a little bit now, and here's a spell for popular protection from dark nights, so that hopefully you don't go to your grave too soon. Nobody wants to do that at all. In the past, it was thought that the night time was when people needed most protection, because it was when ghosts and goblins and other supernatural nasties got up to mischief. And Halloween was when scary things might be on our minds, and was also a time when those ghosties and goblins might be most about. And one of the things traditionally made in the past was a poppet of protection. And it could guard your home and look after you while you sleep. And here's how to make one for yourself. Let me show you. Here's one I made earlier. It might look like a little ghost, but it is actually a poppet of protection made in a kind of traditional style. There was one like this found in a Scottish chimney, supposedly to protect the home. And what you need, really easy, a square of fabric. It can be from one of your pillowcases, which is would have suitable correspondences. That's just a piece of cotton though. And then some herbs, suitable herbs. This is lavender, which is good for protection and for sleep. You get a pinch of the herbs, you put it in the center of that, and you kind of bunch it over, and that's going to be the head. And you get a piece of string. I use white string on that. White is to do with moon magic, so that's also connected with sleep. Red is to do with Mars, the planet Mars, and good for protection. So you can use red string or white string. Then when you get some hair from your head to connect it to you, so you can just run your fingers through your hair or use some from your hairbrush. put that in with the herbs, bunch it over, tie the string around it. There we go, back to the one I made earlier. Then leave a long length so it looks like little arms, and then you can draw on some features, and then you enchant it. You can do a little spell, cast a circle, and then the spell you could say, you can say other words, but these are some you could say. By earth, air, fire, and water, by power of spirit and magic right, I call you to life, my puppets. May it watch over me while I sleep, from ghosties and ghoulies and long-legged beasties and things that go bump in the night. May my puppet protect me, so mote it be. And then you would open your circle and put your puppet by your bed or under your pillow to guard over you and help you get a good night's sleep. Now, finally, I said I was going to give a little bit more apple lore from Luke Eastwood's book on Samhain. Luke writes that a Breton Samhain or Halloween custom was to eat apples because of their magical connection to Avalon and to play divination games. Peel an apple in one go and throw the peel over your shoulder. How it falls will give you the initial of your future lover. After you've eaten the apple, put 2 pips on a hot poker near the fire. And from the reaction of the pips, see if you're going to be lucky in love. One pip would mean yes, and the other no. So, anyway, that's the end of my talk on magic for October. If you're watching this live, I'm going to see if there are any questions. I can see there's a lot of chat. Hello, people. Hello, Hannah. Okay. Yeah. I'm looking for, I'm seeing what people did. Brooms, found some good brooms in October. Absolutely. Luna, you have that mug. Yeah, it's a good mug, isn't it? Okay, hello. Right, now, I don't see any questions. So anyway, thank you very much for watching. I normally at the end give a plug for my books again because, you know, I'm an author and I really like people to buy my books. Candle Magic, guided visualizations, and this one's actually got completely 5-star reviews and some 5 stars and some good reviews on Amazon. It's one I really like. Puppets and Magical Dolls, and this one is, you can pre-order it, and it's my book on scrying, which comes out early next year. But if you're going to my scrying workshop at the end of this month at London Month of the Dead, there'll be a few on sale there. Oh, thank you for saying you enjoyed it. I hope you all did. Oh, yes, I said I was going to give you some web addresses. So my blog is www.badwitch.co.uk, and the Moonbooks blog you can find at www.johnhuntpublishing.com/blogs/moon-books. But I usually just Google search Moonbooks blog and it will come up. My Magic for the Month talks do stay on Facebook so you can watch it later, and I also put them live. Oh, you're going to ask if there are any new books. Yes, the scrying one. I'm blogging at the Moon Books blog for a book which is going to be Pagan Portal's Wheel of the Year. So I'm blogging every month, which kind of covers a lot of the same material that actually I do in my talks each month, because I started doing the talks at the start of the year, and then Trevor invited me to write the book, and so there is quite a bit of crossover. But although the book will also contain some different things as well, and the talks contain some different things as well, so it won't be identical. But yes, I expect that won't come out until the year after, because I will be finishing writing Pagan Portal's Wheel of the Year next year, and editing it and getting it all finalized. And it's always a few months before, it's actually about 7 or 8 months after you finish writing it before it comes out. So yeah, they are the books that I'm working on. I have also written a novel. I wrote a novel earlier this year, and I'm nearly finishing editing it. And I'm still deciding whether to indie publish it or whether to go the traditional publishing route. So yeah, there'll be more news about that in the future. But so that, yes, they are my books. So yeah, I'm quite busy doing a lot of writing. But thank you all very, very much for coming to my talk, and hopefully I'll see you all next month. Bye.